Hello, hello, good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. For those of you who have never caught me live before, my name is Jewel. I am a grateful recovering addict. I will celebrate 9 years clean this year in August. Today, my brother-in-law Joe and I are going to talk about relapse. Just waiting for him to get on, and while I'm waiting for that, I'm going to invite a couple people. If you come on and you feel like this video was of interest to you, please feel free to share it out. I can't share while we're live, but feel free to do so for me. Just waiting on Joe. Hey, Brandy. Oh, there you are. Don't mind me today, guys. I'm at the laundromat. Your brother decided we were coming to the laundromat today, so here we are. Before we get started, hey, Patty.
You're not gonna read it just for today?
I didn't bring it with me,
Oh,
and I didn't send it before.
all right.
I mean, you said yesterday we were going to talk about that, so I didn't think we would necessarily need it. So if you share,
All right, that's fine. I don't care.
you can go ahead and get started.
All right. So today we're gonna talk about relapse, specifically my relapse, um, because it's been a while since we talked about it. I don't think we talked about it since in like a month. So,
Not since we
um,
went live in February.
and I've also seen like a lot of people talking about it on the other recovery pages. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. I also had somebody ask me about it yesterday.
Yeah, me too.
And
I'm trying to think of what her name was so I can invite her.
yeah, she asked me if it had to be a part of recovery because she said like everybody that she talks to says that it's like inevitable and blah blah blah. So
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about that. So let's start with me. So everybody that follows the channel knows that I had 20 months sober, and anybody that doesn't know, my drug of choice is alcohol. It's always been alcohol. I've never had an issue with anything else. Alcohol has always been my thing. Not that that matters, but um, yeah. So, but that's what it's always been. I started drinking when I was like 14, 15, and then by the time I was 19, I was pretty much full blown alcoholic. So, then when I was 19, I had like 3 DWIs in that one year. Um, I had a new case pending when I went to court for my first one. I already had a new DWI pending when I went to court for my very first one. And the judge didn't see it, overlooked it, and he gave me a PBJ. And then when I went to court for the second one, um, and I'm surprised he didn't see it. My lawyer came up to me and he was like, why the hell didn't you tell me that you had another DWI? I don't know if I'm going to be able to get you a PBJ. And the judge was really old. I think it was like Judge Price or something. And because I got my first one in Queen County, and he just didn't really. I mean, I guess it's just like everybody gets PBJ on their first one, so he just kind of didn't pay no attention to it, and gave me a PBJ, and that was that. Then I went to court for my second one, and I got my alcohol level was really 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 bad. So he ended up giving me a week in jail. He gave me like 60 days and suspended it all, but a week. I guess he just wanted me to see what jail was like. I don't know. I didn't really see the point in going to jail for 5 days, but um, so I went to jail for 5 days. Then I got out, and about a couple months later, I um I got pulled over again, and that time the last time I got pulled over, I ran from the cops,
Mm.
and I ran from him in the car, and then I ran from him on foot, and I ended up getting 2 years for that one. So I was all my charges combined on that one. I was facing 15 years, and I took a plea deal. They gave me a plea deal, and the plea deal I was, take these 2 years and we'll drop the felonies. So that's what I did. And so I did my time on that one, and then when I got out, I was on house arrest when I got out for a little while, and I did okay. But as soon as I got off house arrest, I started drinking again, and then flash forward to I think I was 27 when I think I was like 27 when I first moved to Ocean City, and then I got some more charges out there, and I quit. Once I got them charges, I quit drinking. I didn't drink for 9 months, and who runs?
What?
What do you mean? Katie said, "Who runs?"
Oh, because you said you ran from the cops, probably.
Yeah.
Drunk?
Somebody that has yeah, somebody who's dirty and has a revoked driver's license and has a case of beer on the seat. That's who. So yeah. It seemed like a good plan in my head when I did it, but it didn't work out in my favor.
So you
But
did that
anyway,
time.
so then I moved out of Ocean City. I got some new charges. I caught some like a string of burglary charges out there, and then I took that to court. I had jury trial. I took it to jury trial. It drug out for like 8 months. None of the witnesses showed up except for one, and they didn't have any forensic evidence. So because of that, the jury didn't convict me. There wasn't enough evidence to convict me on the charges. And the witness, had some issues of her own, so that didn't really help her case at all.
Yeah.
And none of her co-plaintiffs showed up. So that was that. That was the end of that.
Well, they
So
weren't
I
from
beat that.
around here, were they? They were from like the other side of the country, weren't they? In like California or something crazy?
They were from all over the place, man. It was a whole big bullshit story. I'm not even gonna get into that. But anyway, I beat the case. I took it to jury trial. The jury found me not guilty. So now I'm 9 months sober because I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to get in any more trouble while I was waiting trial. So then not too long after that, I had some other shit. I moved to Salisbury because I got evicted because of the charges, even though I got found not guilty. My landlord evicted me before I even got tried or anything. So I don't know. They said I was like a threat to other vacationers who would come live at the condos. Blah blah blah. So I moved to Salisbury, and then I did all right for a little while, and then not too long after my case was done and over with, I started drinking again, and then my wife got pregnant. My daughter was born. I quit drinking when she came around, when my daughter was born, and I stayed sober for 20 months. She's about 22, 23 months. She'll be 2 in June. So I've been sober for most of her life. But her and my wife went to Texas to go visit her sister, and I ended up relapsing while they were gone. I drank. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't understand why I got evicted. I mean, technically, I could have sued them if I wanted to. I could have sued the people for defamation. I could have did all kind of shit, but I'm not that type of person. I was glad that it was done and over with. And I'm the type of guy that I hate the system. I hate court. I'm not gonna go for any more shit than I got to. So I don't care. It is what it is. It's over. I beat the case. I'm not digging it up and trying to sue and all that bullshit because I don't want to go to court at all for anything.
Right.
So I'm the type I won't even fight a speeding ticket or nothing. I'll pay that shit if I can avoid walking into a courthouse. So yeah, so I don't know. It is what it is. But Anyway, so I stayed sober for 20 months while they were gone. I relapsed. It was a one night thing. I drank. I don't know. I think they sell like pints, the Miller pint with the sealed top cans or whatever, the big cans. They sell them in like 15 packs now. So I bought one of them. I drank the whole thing and passed out, went to sleep. And then when I woke up, um, I don't know. I felt like shit. You know, I felt like an idiot. I felt like I wasted all that. All that whole 20 months. Even though I kind of kept my word, my daughter didn't that I wasn't responsible for it because my wife and daughter weren't even here. They were in Texas. So I kept my word on that end, but I came to the conclusion that, it's like I got to keep my word when she's not around. I got to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and not use my child as a crutch because what happens, God forbid something happens to her, or I still have a life to live. I still have to live the best that I can live, and I still have to be here for everybody else and for myself. That was the biggest thing. Like I'm just the type of person where I grew up where I don't value myself enough. I didn't value myself growing up. I kind of learned through watching my mom to always do everything for everybody else,
Yeah.
and always be the rock and the shoulder for everybody else. And that's just kind of how I grew up, and I kind of took on that role once I got older. And then when I'm left to myself and I'm left by myself, I realize that I don't really give a shit about myself. I don't really care about my life or my health or what happens to me. And that's something that I had to sit with, and I had to realize I had to make peace with and start to value myself more, start to really understand that I have a life too. My life matters too. I have to take care of myself too. I can't just do it for everybody else because there's no guarantee that everybody else is still going to be around. And the facts of the matter is that when I drink, I am a threat to other
I can't hear you. Did you
yeah, I
put
said
the speaker?
no. I said, what's that noise? You had like a loud noise in the background.
It's just me and the tree. I mean,
Okay,
there's traffic
whatever's
right
a loud
on the road
noise.
behind us, but it sounded
I
more
don't know.
so like you had your finger over the speaker or something.
I don't know. Maybe. So yeah. So anyway. So I kind of figured that out. I kind of figured out that I gotta look out for me too, and I gotta make sure that when nobody's watching, I'm still being the same person that I am when other people are around. And yeah, so anybody that wants to know if they're curious, nothing good came out of it. It wasn't a big party. I didn't have fun. Um, the buzz lasted for a grand total of 2 hours, and then I felt sluggish and felt like shit, and kept drinking until I passed out. So anybody that knows that that's an alcoholic, that's a drinker. I mean, I can't speak for other drugs, but by this point in time, that buzz is like a 2 hour buzz. You know what I'm saying? That shit only lasts for so long. You either maintain that buzz, which alcoholics don't do, or you push it as far as you can go, and within a 2 3 hour time period, you passed out. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how it's always been for me. Um, I mean, you might hang longer, but you're kind of in and out. You kind of know what you're doing. You kind of don't know what you're doing. Anybody that's a drinker knows all these things.
Yeah.
So we all know that. So it's you're fantasizing something that is long gone. You're fantasizing the party phase. You're fantasizing, and I realized for me too, in that night, in that day, I realized that I wasn't fantasizing the party anymore. So I realized that it wasn't the party that I was fantasizing about, that I was, crushing over, that I wanted to chase. What I was chasing was the escape.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to stop thinking. You know what I mean? And anybody that knows when you drink, you it shuts off all the world. You know, it shuts off all that shit that you're thinking about. It shuts off, you know, all the things that you're upset about or whatever's going on. But then you get to a certain point and you're drinking in the night where then if you're drinking by yourself, like I usually do, um, you start getting lonely. Your head starts fucking with you. You start to think about bad shit. You start to think about stupid shit that you did. You start to think about, you know, loved ones that passed away. You know, you start to, it just starts to become depressing instead of something that used to be fun. And for anybody, and this is true for drug addicts too, you know, it quit being fun years and years and years ago. You know what I'm saying? That party phase is usually only a 1 to 2 year window. After that, you either become a social drinker or a social, you know, drug user. Because I know people like that. I know people that can handle their business and don't, you know, get all fucked up. They know their limitations. But for us, we don't have a limit. You know, for us, we push it to the max. If you're an alcoholic, you drink till you black out. You know, if you're a drug addict, you probably do drugs till you pass out. You know, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what separates us from other people. What also separates us from other people is other people have the ability to put it down. We don't. You know, I know about, you know, 18 beers in, I'm okay. I don't need to drink anymore. But that's not going to stop me from drinking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to stop at 18 beers because I know 18 beers is kind of when I start to get different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I won't stop there. That's also what separates us from other people. You know what I mean? What also separates us from other people is we make decisions when we're like that. You know what I mean? You see all the time drink too much at the bar and they ask their friend to give them a ride home, or they call a cab, or they call a Lyft or a Uber or whatever. We won't do that.
Right.
We're not gonna do that shit because we think we got it all under control.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's the difference. We think we got this shit, and sometimes after some years go by, we trick ourselves into thinking that we hit the restart button. So now maybe if we start over after all this time, we can go back to that party phase, and maybe this time it'll be different. I'm gonna tell you right now, from 19 to 28, even to now, I spent all that time. I didn't spend all that time figuring out if I had a problem or not. I knew I had a problem when I was about 18 or 19. I spent the majority of my alcohol abuse trying to get it under control because I didn't want to let it go. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Then finally I realized, you know, 22 months ago or whatever it was, that I gotta let this shit go. And it doesn't mean everything's gonna be perfect. You know, anybody that followed me, you know, I seem like a strong person, like I got it together, and even I relapsed. You know, so it's not. Um, you're never gonna technically beat it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to hear people say like, oh, I got this thing beat. It's not true. You know, you got to beat that shit every single day. It's not just you won a year, so you're good, you're done, it's over now. You got to do it every single day. Every single day, you gotta win. Every day has to be a win.
Yeah.
And you know, my grandfather had 40 plus years sober, and he said it was still the same thing for him. He woke up, looked himself in the mirror, and was like, I don't need a drink today. And he took it literally a day at a time. I know it sounds corny or cliche, but even him, somebody who had 40 years, who stayed sober for the rest of his life, it was the same thing for him. He said the same thing. Just take it a day at a time.
Yeah.
Just tell yourself you don't need it. Um, and it's hard, you know, especially it's hard for alcoholics because it's so accessible, it's legal, it's it's everywhere you go. So, you know, just think about that. Um, but that was, you know, that was kind of my relapse story. But I said it before, you know, relapse doesn't have to be a part of your story just because it was a part of my story. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Hopefully now, you know, I'll be sober again soon. So hopefully now, um, you guys will still be following me, you know, as long as we're healthy or whatever's going on. And I'll be doing a video 10 years from now, and I'll have 10 years sober. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I did learn a lot from what I did. I did learn a lot from my shitty choice because it was a choice. I had plenty of opportunities where I could have made a different one. I didn't want to. I already made my mind up. And that's the thing too. Like a lot of times as addicts or alcoholics, we get tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Once it pops into our head, if we don't hurry up and get it out and do something to get it out of our head, we start to get that tunnel vision. And once we get that tunnel vision, it's hard to turn back around. You know, it's hard to hit the brakes. And that's kind of what happened to me. And it is what it is. I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to beat myself up about it. Personally, I don't really, um, I care, but I don't really care so much. You know what I mean? Because it is what it is. You
I
know,
feel
it's like,
like I feel like it was something you had to learn, you know? Couldn't nobody tell you that you couldn't lean on Leanna for it forever. You know, we couldn't tell you that. Just like we couldn't tell you that you had to do it for yourself. You know, you had to figure that out on your own. It was a hard from being on the outside of it, it was really hard for me to deal with because, and I know that sounds selfish, um, but I went through a whole bunch of emotions with it. You know, I was angry because you didn't call anybody, you didn't say anything to anybody. Um, you could have easily came and kicked it with us all day, and that was my thing. I felt like you had a plan, maybe whether you like consciously knew it or not, that you had a plan for it. Um, and then, you know, outside of the anger, I was like hurting for you because I know what it's like when you mess up that one time and you're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, this wasn't worth it. And like embarrassed and ashamed and all those emotions that come with it. So I don't know. When I got clean the first time, and I don't even really know that you could say I got clean, I abstained from using drugs for 84 days simply because I was locked up. And I know that on like the shows and stuff with jail that, you know, all these people can get drugs and stuff in jail. That wasn't the case at Queens County Detention Center in the women's pod. So I didn't get any drugs while I was locked up or anything like that. So I had 84 days clean when I left. However, I didn't have any recovery. There was no, we had a meeting. We were lucky to have a meeting once a month. There was no NA literature available to us. There was no kind of treatment or therapy or anything like that. I mean, it's jail, so of course not. But when I got out, I had made up my mind that I was going to do 90 meetings in 90 days because that's what somebody had told me to do. And I did do 90 meetings in 90 days, but a lot of times I got high either before or after the meeting, and just kept it moving. And it wasn't until almost, I guess it was like 8 or 9 months later, um, I had to, per my probation, I had to do treatment at a counseling center that was local to us, and I had pissed dirty. And so my option was I could go to rehab, like they set everything up, or I was gonna have to go back to my probation officer who was probably gonna violate me. So it was an easy decision for me. Well, obviously you would pick treatment over going back to jail, at least I did. And then I wouldn't even say treatment was what changed things for me because I don't really feel like the first 2 weeks it was like a vacation for me. Like we played volleyball all the time and we played softball and we had cookouts and we played spades and it was just like summer camp. You know, my mom always joked I went away to summer camp. But when I got into a recovery house is when I really learned like there was a life outside of using drugs and I could have that life. All I had to do was not pick up. And so I get really mad when people say relapse when they make it seem like relapse has to be a part of your story. It doesn't have to be a part of your story. If you use the tools that you're given through the program, you won't need to relapse. You won't have any reason to do that. So,
yeah, I mean, my grandfather and my uncle, they both got sober like around the same time, and neither one of them relapsed. I mean, and they stay sober for the rest of their lives. So I mean,
right.
it doesn't have to be. You know what I mean? It
Well,
just,
and it's like I
but
said yesterday, if you relapsed, always, excuse me, always come back. If you can feel all the signs and see all the signs, the isolation, the if you're somebody who goes to meetings and you stop going to meetings, you stop calling your sponsor, you stop checking in with the people that love and care about you, those are all the signs. So there's a word for it. I can't think of what the word is. Hmm. There was a word I wanted to use. I can't think of what it is now.
I just feel like the
Motivation.
most important. For me, I feel like the most important thing was what I chose to do. when when I did it, when I relapsed, I still had like a week and a half before I had to fly to Texas. So theoretically, I could have kept drinking until I left. You know what I'm saying? So I
Mhm.
had to go back to be with my daughter, but I didn't. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the most crucial part of it is when you relapse, don't turn it into a binge. Don't turn it into don't go on the run. Don't do all kind of other shit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that next day when you wake up and you're sober or you're clean, when you wake up, start right then and there. Start immediately because the issue is, and I know could have been the issue for me, if you go down that spiral, it's going to be 10 times harder for you to get back out of it.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to keep feeding it. And when the more you feed it, the bigger it grows. That's just
It's
the way it is.
easier.
Um, and it becomes really, really hard for you to get back on track. So for anybody that does relapse or it is a part of their story, just make sure, it's a 1 day shot. Don't turn it into when you get up the next day, start to do all your work. Start to, reach out to people. Be honest, admit it to somebody right away, because that's kind of what I did. As a matter of fact, I admitted it while I was drinking. I told my brother while I was drinking what I had done because I wanted him to know before I woke up and sobered up and started, I just gotta make sure nobody knows about this and play dumb and all this shit. You know what I'm
He
saying?
said
So
he
I made
knew.
sure,
He said as soon as you got on the phone, he knew. He could tell. Your voice changes, apparently.
yeah, it does. So
Mm, just like your
that
mom.
right. So that's just but just be honest with yourself, be real with yourself, make sure when it does happen that you get right back on track the next day because the longer you stay out there and the more you feed it and the more the bigger it grows, the harder it gets,
Yeah.
and you're just gonna make it harder on yourself. So I know it's hard. I know you feel guilty, you feel like shit. You just want to escape even more now because you made a bad choice. But let me tell you something: addicts or not, alcoholics or not, people make choices every day of their lives. You know what I'm saying? So don't feel like just because you have an issue that it's any different than anybody else's problems. You know what I'm saying? We all have problems. We all make bad decisions. We all fuck up. That's
Yeah.
just the way it is. So don't let the biggest thing is don't create a domino effect. Don't let one fuck up turn into two, turn into three, turn into four, and then you're in a hole again and you got to dig yourself out. Because for me, um, I remember, talking to my grandmother uh, a little bit before she passed away, and I was drunk. I was sitting at her house talking to her, and she told me I never seen this disease progress so much in somebody like it did with you, and it's like so quick. And it was kind of hard hearing that, especially from another alcoholic. I mean, she was a terrible alcoholic when she was my age. You know what I mean? So to hear that from her, it was like one of those should have been a wake up call, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
wasn't. I was young. I wasn't trying to hear it. Now I know that. I know that I have the potential for a fast downward spiral. So I make sure that I made sure this time around that I didn't let that happen. I made sure that immediately the next day I started over, and so just make sure if that happens to you that you start over. But the most important thing, try not to let it happen to you because I could have avoided it.
Yeah.
I'll be lying to you if I said that I had no choice and I couldn't avoid it because that's a lie. I did have a choice and I could have avoided it. As a matter of fact, I was on the phone with you when I was sitting out front of shortstop. So I had all the time in the world to
Oh, that makes me mad. Ugh.
right. So, but that's what I said. But that's what I said though. When you have your mind made up, you're not going to tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're going to keep it to yourself.
And I
So,
was trying to catch you. I was hoping, like, when I saw that you called, I was hoping that I had called you in enough time so you could come to the house. Because I knew if I could get you to the house, that you would be okay. But you hurried your ass on
but
home.
But the point of the story is I can't be like that though. I can't depend on everybody else all the time. I can't. Um, and that's something that I learned, and it's something that I used to preach to my mom all the time. I used to tell her, "Stop fucking trying to do it for us and your grandkids. Just do it for you." And then here I am, you know, down the line, and I'm doing it for somebody else. Like I'm not paying attention to the fact that I used to tell her the same thing, and I'm doing the same exact thing. And Doing it for somebody else got me 20 months. So it's effective, but at some point you got to make that switch and you got to start doing it for yourself, or it's not going to last. And that's something that I figured out with that situation. And that's something that I learned. And I'm just going to carry that with me and make sure that from now on, I'm doing it for me and I'm not doing it for anybody else. Because the reality is, if I do go down that road and I do continue down that spiral, I always get in trouble. It doesn't take long for me to get caught up in some shit. So, because that's just the way I am. When I get like that, I don't think. You know what I'm saying? I don't think before I do things.
Yeah.
So it's just the way it is. But with that being said, like I said before, it doesn't mean that it has to be a part of your story. Just because it was a part of my story doesn't mean it has to be a part of yours. Because, like I said, there's plenty of people who didn't relapse.
Yeah.
And same thing with my grandmother. When she got sober, she went to rehab, got out, never relapsed in her life.
Yeah.
So I mean,
It's
there's a
possible.
lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot of people. And then you take my dad, for instance, or my mom. My dad and my mom, they're chronic. They were chronic relapsers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They relapsed over and over and over and over and over. So depends on the person. It depends on the choices you make. It depends on why you're doing it.
Yeah.
It depends on if you keep working at it or not.
Yeah.
Because it's easy for us to be comfortable and think, yeah, this shit's over. I got it. I'm under. It's all under control now. It's not. It's an everyday.
Yeah. Well, Joe, I don't want to cut you off, but my phone's dying.
It's all right. I'm done anyway.
So, are we gonna go live tomorrow?
Yeah, around the same time, I guess.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Have an awesome day. We'll be live tomorrow, probably around this time, lunchtime-ish. So,
Yep.
all right. See ya.
All right, y'all.